So I just started the stream. Anybody confirm?
Yeah,
And it's a good time to share if you'd like to share. We're about
I
to
don't
start
see.
the Gillmor Gang. Hopefully we're streaming to YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Twitter is live.
Twitter's live,
LinkedIn's live.
LinkedIn's live.
I
I
haven't
don't
gotten
see
a
it
message
on.
from
Have
What'd you say?
Facebook yet.
Yeah,
Not
I don't
by
see
the-
it.
Not yet.
not popping on Facebook yet?
Are they still in business?
Yes, got it. Facebook. I'm in.
Not that it should form part of the show, but I did notice this week that Restream now lets you ingest a Zoom stream.
Really?
And so theoretically, Tina
Really?
could sat on the Restream screen doing the lower thirds and stuff real time, and we could all be on Zoom.
Whoa. Oh, we're gonna have to think about that. Okay. All right. Steve's like, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
All right. All right. You want to get a little bit closer? A
No,
little bit more.
no, I don't.
Today. Too much light in here today. Too much natural light. Help! Okay.
Unlike Brent, who has no natural light whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, we're working on our windows here, so all of our window treatments are down and out.
okay, so here's the signal for letting the stream start, please.
Okay. All right. And places, everybody. All right, mute is off. And we're gonna go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. Joining us from London, England, UK, and whatever other attributes are associated with it is Frank Radis.
Hello, Steve. Hello, gangsters. It's a real pleasure to see you tonight, because it is tonight here in the UK.
Yeah, thank you, Orson. Only the shadow knows.
I was trying to outlight Brent's shotgun. I couldn't do it.
You're getting quieter and quieter,
well,
Frank.
as you fixed your lighting to your specifications, you did something to your audio, so you're a little quiet.
I think it was Hitchcock, not Orson.
Ah,
Is
The
that any
shadow
better?
was
It just said that
Performed by
it,
Orson Welles.
She was only the Gilmore Gang producer.
There you
Little
go.
did she know how the day would evolve.
was pretty good.
That was really a little
No.
too good there, Keith.
Who knows what evil lurks?
This show is one of the most amazing things in the natural world.
Wow.
Okay, so get closer to the mic, Frank. Joining us from the Atlanta, Georgia area is Brent Leary.
Hello. Why did I just do that? I don't know.
Because you thought you were on the Carson show.
Yeah, really, only the shadow knows.
By the way, I just want to say 49ers.
No. I got a few things I'd like to say, but I won't for this particular show.
It's a family show.
you want to show us your hat? Okay. there
What
we
does it
go.
say?
NFC West champions.
Yeah, I'm
Living
still-
the best.
Hey, we're still the reigning champs until February of 2023 or whatever.
There
Okay,
you
well, hold that close to your heart.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. From Palo Alto, California is Keith Tier.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. I'm very happy to be here. I was trying to do David Frost, but then I lost it, so I had to go back to being Keith again, or Richard, should I say.
Keith Richards.
Or, there you go.
What is Keith Richards' real name?
Keith here.
Keith
Keith.
Dick.
Keef.
Keith.
I believe that he used to be known as Keith Richard, and
Oh.
then changed it to Richards.
Big difference.
I have no idea what his real name is.
Why would he have done that?
Because that means there's just more of it.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I did ask. I did ask for it, so.
Well, yeah,
That's what I'm here for.
in in the state of Seattle, Washington, is Michael Markman.
How do you do?
What's going on?
Well, we have sunshine. We have sunshine. That's it used to be unusual here, but it's been very usual all summer. Dry summer.
Mm.
As for the world at large, I don't ask.
Steve, Keith Richards was his born name. His manager then forced him to drop the S, and then he reintroduced it.
There you go.
Ah,
Wow, what a story.
I knew there was a story. I just didn't know what it was.
Good story.
Thank you,
The
Internet.
the story of the S.
The missing and refurbished S. And speaking of frameworks, from the framework of Massachusetts is Dennis Pombriant.
Greetings, and it's a wonderful time to be here in the Commonwealth because apples are falling off of trees. Other trees have red leaves and yellow leaves, and the nights are cool for sleeping. The days are warm. We just said goodbye to the remnants of Hurricane Ian, and yeah, things are pretty good here in the Commonwealth.
Okay, so
Dennis can't get used to the framework. I don't know why.
who could? It makes no sense. That's why I'm sticking
I
with
like
it.
I like
I do
You
too.
like
I
it.
think, framework, protocol. How about the protocol of Massachusetts?
Mm.
Actually, if you were a little more historical, you'd call it the Compact.
Oh,
What?
compact.
The Compact, after the Mayflower Compact, which was a set of rules that they wrote up on the boat before they got off, that basically said, here's how we're going to live here in the wilderness. And it is one of the earliest and oldest kinds of constitution or these rules to live by in North America.
Segueing to present
Yeah.
day,
Compact.
what does anybody want to talk about today?
I think the entente cordiale between Twitter and Elon Musk would be definitely worth talking about.
Mm.
Whether there really is an entente cordiale or whether there's a slow, silent war.
I think that we should begin this whole thing with the fact that Steve was right.
Well, how can I be right if this hasn't resolved
Well,
it?
Yeah,
Well, it just seems like you're more right than
let's put it this way. Steve may have been right.
may have been right. You're right. You're right about that. Steve may have been right, but he still may be right.
Wait till they cash the check.
Yeah.
I actually think,
Actually, this is proof of the Gillmor gang uncertainty principle, which says that Steve is right until he isn't.
Or unless he isn't.
No, it's until.
So,
Look, last week I
got-
changed. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say last week I changed my vote to say that Steve was right. And on whenever it was Tuesday, I thought, yep, that was the right decision. But by last night, when I was writing my editorial, I thought, not so sure anymore.
Okay, so it sucks to be you, but tell me about your mental turmoil here.
Well, firstly, I take my starting point from the fact that Elon Musk is nothing if not devious. He's a clever, super clever, devious person. And he was about to lose a law case because he wasn't prepared to go through with his original offer. And I can imagine the meeting with Morgan Stanley where he said, if I go through with my original offer to get the court case off my back, so I'm prepared to do the deal, but you guys aren't prepared to give me the money, could that get me off the hook? And I think there's this whole thing around can he finance the debt element of the purchase, where the current answer is not clear. And the New York Times said if he can't finance the debt, he forfeits the $1 billion, but he doesn't have to go to court because he's prepared to do the deal. He just can't.
That's pretty rosy. Am I wrong? Did I not hear that even if he did the deal, that they still might go ahead with some type of a legal action in court?
Well,
What?
if he did the deal and he became the owner of Twitter, there would be no case because it would be Elon Musk versus Elon Musk.
Yeah.
It's only a case when he doesn't own Twitter.
That's his life
That's true.
story, though.
Yeah, that sounded
Must be
like
Musk.
what I thought the outcome of all that was, but I heard that today and it made me go,
But
Frank,
you
almost
see that
impossible to
the
understand. It's almost impossible to understand you because when you switched cameras, I believe you also switched to a microphone on that whatever camera that is. Can you try?
you sound like a
another
cheap
camera?
radio telephone filter.
No, he sounds like
this is London.
Yeah,
At
it
the
sounds about
time-
the same. Only now you're doing it as an effect.
Well, actually, what he sounds like is what the shadow sounded like when he turned invisible.
Oh, but even better, even more Londonish. He sounds like the fish creature off Doctor Who.
Okay, so while Frank is working on that, I interrupted somebody. Who was it?
Might have been me. I don't know.
I was
Might
gonna
have been
say-
Dennis.
Go ahead,
Might have
Dan.
been all of us.
I was going to say that an interesting tell is Michelle Goldberg's column today in the New York Times, in which she basically throws up her hands and says, if Musk gets Twitter, he'll ruin it. It's almost like the cognoscenti are capitulating and saying, yeah, he's got it. Go for it. And she makes some interesting points. If he has his way, he's going to turn Twitter into an ultra-right cesspool that a lot of people are going to avoid.
Well, that's one scenario. There's another scenario which says he's too smart to do that. He doesn't want to ruin the thing that he just has spent $44 billion to acquire. I mean that would be a strange self-owned to spend that much money and then ruin the product. I mean, there's another thing lurking in the background, which is that it's not just a question of free speech or letting Trump back on. He may have much bigger plans for Twitter to make something that some people call a super app, make something that becomes almost an operating system for being online. And it's a good foundation because he's got 41 million users to begin with. So he's not building it from nothing. So his ultimate goal may have nothing to do with left or right or free speech or whether Trump comes on or Trump doesn't come on. He may have much bigger plans in mind.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's I disagree with Michelle Goldberg. I don't think that you could do anything to ruin Twitter that hasn't already been done.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they've tried really hard to destroy it many times and failed.
Well, I think it's like a Frankenstein. They put all the nuts and bolts together and now it works. And then they got rid of the biggest mistake they made was getting rid of the fail whale, because at least they had an excuse. Now they've got something that lives on of its own accord.
Well, I think what Twitter proves is the human race wants a live ticker tape of life. That's what it really is. It's a live ticker tape of life. And all life is on it. That's why I personally think it's fine for Trump to come back, but we'll disagree on that. All life is on it. All life can find other life to either fight with or agree with. And the human race loves that. So it won't die. It'll evolve and it'll morph. And it'll only become more connected to everyone, day to day. So Musk is right to think that Twitter is an embryo of a much bigger idea. He's totally
I
right.
think you're partially right, but 41 million users is not the human race. It's a pretty small subset of the human race. So Twitter is a universe, but it's a sub-universe within our bigger universe.
But its connection to the mainstream media, of those 41 million, there's probably 70, 80, 90% penetration of the media.
I would agree. It's all of the media connected universe.
Well, that's a big deal.
By the way, I think 41 million is wrong. I'm just checking. I think it's like 10 times that. It's 450 million monthly active users.
Okay.
Okay, so anything else about this, or can we move on, since obviously it's not going to be settled until October 31st?
I want to hear.
I'm just waiting for the AI to take over all of Twitter.
Say again?
Am I still sounding like I'm calling from a cheap telephone?
It's better, but
Yes.
It might be the microphone on the ear things that have kicked in. If you look at which microphone it's using.
Yeah, I just did, and it didn't even show the other microphone. So I would have to tear stuff apart and stuff. So
it's that paper cup in the background.
what paper cup? Do I have a paper cup? That thing up there?
A string and two paper cups. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like.
I could use that.
You were
What I
saying?
said was that if he buys Twitter and messes around with in the metaverse with the AI and turns and Twitter morphs into something that fits more into what the people at Facebook are trying to do.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
no, well, Facebook has become irrational from a human point of view. It's become a demagoguery kind of march to the metaverse, which today it came out that Zuckerberg is having to force the staff working on the metaverse to use it at least once a week. And they don't and the head of the metaverse effort said the app's actually unusable, and unless you guys start using it, you won't know it's unusable, so you won't fix it. That was a leaked internal doc that came out on CNBC this morning. So Facebook's become obsessed with owning the interface that humans use to engage with each other and data, and they just can't. It isn't going to work because the iPhone and to some extent the Android phone is the interface. Facebook only owns software. It doesn't own hardware. It isn't going to replace the phone with a face mask ever. So it's on a failed mission. And if anyone does get us to wear a face mask, it's more likely to be Apple than Facebook, I suspect. But even that's a stretch for me. So I think Twitter's the more rational player that's going after something genuinely human that people want.
In its current state, yes. But I wonder if Elon, in trying to build a super app, won't be doing a parallel effort to what Zuckerberg is doing. In other words, he's using what we call Facebook as a cash cow to help him finance building something bigger and better and broader. And Musk may do the same thing and wind up in the same kind of hole.
He might, but this is a bit conspiratorial, but I think this X app that he's leaked this week, where he bought X.com, which he used to own years ago before PayPal.
Well, who do you mean he? Are you
Musk?
Uh-huh.
Musk bought X.com.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I was muddy to me as to who you were saying he was.
Yeah. So I think Musk is has no well-defined intent around X.com, and I think him bringing it into the conversation around Twitter is yet another signal that he's really serious about buying Twitter. And he's basically trying to create the idea that he wants to get the deal done. He's prepared to pay 54 billion. He's even got a plan with XApp of what he's going to do with it. And then, oh dear, we can't raise the debt finance.
Yeah, I doubt it. I think that's way too complex for what's going on here.
Probably. I'm just seeing enough of that.
Well, I'm agreeing with you, your retraction.
Nice.
You're probably right.
Excellent. Brent, what do you think?
I think I really do look good.
Well, Brent,
really digging this.
You had me on your show yesterday, and it was billed as a mea culpa. And as I said, never enough times, there was no mea that I could ascertain, and there was no culpa at all.
Well, you know, I was all set and prepared to do that. And then that Wall Street Journal article came out that talked about, well, it looks like they're still having some, differences, significant differences. And so, I mean, I'll go back to the football analogy. If you're on the 5-yard line, it's goal to go, but you haven't crossed yet. And until that happens, I hold off on my meas and my culpas. So, it is what it is.
Brent, what down is it?
It's like third down.
Fifth
So
down.
you got 2 more downs.
I think
But
the Rams-
I don't want to rush it. You never know. Things could happen. And like Keith said, earlier this week, it was looking pretty confident, but now it's like, who knows what happened. At the end of the day, we just don't know what'll happen.
So
it sounds very like the Rams.
Oh,
They had about 5 of them where they didn't manage to
yeah.
convert.
Yeah, well, it's been a hard year as champions, and I know the Niners, you probably don't remember that feeling, but it is what at the end.
Zing.
Oh.
I'm not a true fan, so I don't really care.
Okay,
you
Dennis.
backed out of that one real quick.
Dennis, what's floating your boat?
What's floating my boat? Well, I'm still watching closely the Ukraine war, and it's just fascinating to me how so many people with funny ideas like Vladimir Putin or Elon Musk or Donald Trump seem to be all hitting the skids at the same time. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know if there's any significance to it, but it just seems like that their boniness and their lies are just sort of all running out of gas at the same time. And I'm enjoying it.
I don't know. It doesn't feel like that to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's the media. It feels like the media is trying to drive, these narratives where, as like one step forward for, the lefts, and then it feels like 2 steps back for the righties. I don't know. It doesn't. I don't see any. I don't feel like there's a trend of any kind right now. It feels like there's this competing narratives that are, every time you think, oh, it's going to start going one way, then you get pulled back to the other way. I don't know what's going to happen in a month. It just it doesn't feel like it's
that's to
settled.
be expected. That's to be expected. I mean, you can't deny that Letitia James has an indictment against the Trump organization. You can't deny that the Justice Department is investigating Trump for the documents, as well as some other things. You can't deny the Attorney General of Georgia or the district attorney, I forget, is investigating Trump for election mistakes or whatever you want to call it. You can't deny that Vladimir Putin's army is getting routed. You can't deny that Elon Musk, after a summer of playing, oh, I don't want it, is facing the music and understanding that he has to buy. So I think those things are real. I think if you think of it as the stock market, the market goes up and down, up and down, up and down. It's a sawtooth. The direction isn't found in a day of trading. It's found in the trend of the lows and highs.
I mean, there's all that you could add to it, as I think you did on a previous show, the demonstrations in Iran. There are lots of signs in that direction. On the other hand, there was the Italian election, where one of the inheritors of Mussolini suddenly won the election, although with only
Can you just
26%.
stop at that one right there? One of the descendants of Mussolini,
Inheritors.
now the prime minister of Italy. or
No,
whatever.
not descendant, one of the acolytes.
Oh, acolytes. Okay.
Intellectual
I
inheritors.
thought there was an actual lineage that we were getting ready to say walk down, which would have been even worse.
No,
Well,
no, she's not a direct descendant of Mussolini. But she
Well,
was part of the neo-fascist movement.
On the
I-
plus side, you have to admit, Italy has had about something like 70 governments since World War II, about one a year. They change governments like you change underwear. How significant is a fascist turn at this? I'm not sure it is.
I think that I think it's a mistake to frame it in terms of left and right, or neo-fascist and fascist, or socialist even. It feels to me like politicians are symptomatic of things. They're not causal. They're created, if you like, by things. And there's
In
a
a
lot of
democracy, yeah.
well, pretty much everywhere, I think it's true. I mean, I think it's very hard to get away from economics creates politics, and politics and economics together create society. And I think what's happening is a populism which is anti-political. It's basically anti-political populism. And it's kind of got common sense at the core. Like, I listened to the Italian prime minister, and I couldn't really disagree with anything she said. She was talking about the redefinition of gender, and not that we want to get into the redefinition of gender, but nothing she said was really shocking. She said, "Look, biologically there are men and biologically there are women, and it's okay for people to identify any way they want, but they can't change gender." And it was fairly liberal at that level, and it was fairly scientific at the core. And she was against the woke left for trying to redefine, science. And I listened to it and I thought, I understand why people vote for her. It's not that they're neo-fascists, that it's just like it's common sense. And she's not a politician, more to the point. So I think something more profound is going on. And I think Trump wasn't about Trump, although it was also about Trump. And I don't think, Truss is about Truss. Boris was about Boris. I think it's the antipathy to politicians. There's a bit of anti-globalism built in there as well. Like the idea that there's some supranational entities that over-determine your life. That's definitely true in Brexit. And it's a bit true here to do with the border and immigration. But something more profound is going on that isn't easily reducible to left versus right.
I hear you. If I could offer this, I'd say I'd say that about half of society is exhausted, and you can trace the exhaustion to the banking meltdown in 2008.
How so?
A lot of people lost their homes. A lot of people have been losing jobs for most of this century. People without college degrees in many cases. People who work with their hands, who needed factories, and the factories have been sent offshore. And in some cases, I think they are rightly aggrieved at how the financial industry has taken their lives and their jobs and their livelihoods and treated them like commodities, disposable.
I mean, there's certainly a profound loss of status, of income, of security that's affected an enormous number of people. And you don't have to be politically politically tuned in to recognize that you feel a huge amount of insecurity about your place in your world and your ability to maintain it.
Sure.
But I think, I only partially agree with Keith's analysis. It's not one or the other. It's actually a feedback loop that involves both of them. Because what politicians can do is reflect and amplify things that are going on and focus them. And that, it's a feedback loop in that it changes the population that they're reflecting, if they reflect it well. If someone gets into that zeitgeist and can articulate it and attract it and gather forces around himself, that amplifies what the people are feeling, and it's a positive feedback loop that just keeps amplifying with each cycle until something comes along to break it.
But it does mean things are super unpredictable. I'm a little bit surprised how close the midterms are looking now, given how it looked a couple of weeks ago. It means things are unpredictable because people aren't gathering around ideologies. They're reacting instinctively to experiences a lot. And when people don't have ideologies, they can kind of go anywhere, really. Depending on short-term circumstance. So it feels as if there isn't solid ground that you could really predict or understand. And look at the Brazilian election, actually, was kind of interesting, where Lula from the populist left was faced with an opponent from the populist right, and it came around 50-50 in what is effectively, fairly, it wasn't quite 50-50, but they have to have a runoff. So it feels like all over the world, there's a contested space, and there's no kind of common ground, really.
Well, I think that's because what we have are two orthogonal ideologies. It's not a spectrum anymore from left to right. There is one group of people who think that politics and government have a legitimate role to play in ameliorating financial uncertainty, and another group of people who are looking for power simply to serve the wealthiest corporate interests. And what those people are doing is working the mass of voters on issues that aren't really part of left and right. They're not running on tax issues or regulatory issues. They're running on culture issues. They're running on, oh my goodness, people are seducing your children. Oh my goodness, people are letting boys compete in girls' sports. Oh my goodness, the immigrants are coming to take your jobs. There's a whole collection of ideas that resonate with people who are unhappy with the way things are going. And they aren't really proposing any solution to the fundamental economic unhappiness. They're simply gathering that negative energy and trying to use it to drive people to the ballot box. But when they get into office, what they do is cut taxes on the wealthy, and what they do is lower government regulations so that corporations have a free hand. So
how do you justify the impact of what Biden has done about climate based on that view of what's going on?
What do you mean by justify?
Well, I mean, it sounds orthogonal. I think you used that word, to look at the 500 billion, I forget what the numbers are in terms of charging stations, the move toward electric vehicles. Who did that, and how does that marry up with this treacherous bunch of people trying to achieve power?
Let me spell it out to you simply.
Please.
Republicans are the treacherous bunch of people, and the Democrats, with Biden at the head, are the people who are using government to try and fix things. The Republicans
Okay.
are trying to say government never works. They're trying to say that government intervention is always evil. You know the old Reagan line. What was it? The scariest words in the English language are "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." That's their ideology. Government is bad.
Right.
So-
I understand the ideological.
So I don't know what the mystery is. There are Republicans and there are Democrats. Democrats
But
are
if-
in one universe and Republicans are in
Biden-
another universe.
I think
Is
it's a
Biden
little
being
more
successful
complex.
is Biden being successful in changing the calculus regarding electric vehicles and the climate?
I believe he
Your
is.
opinion.
Yes,
What?
I don't know yet, but it looks like he is. Yes.
So in that view, if in fact it looks like it is going to make some impact, if you add up all the destruction of democracy worries and stuff, if it turns out that democracy is not destroyed, and we actually develop some tools to be able to avoid the implosion of the universe, what is so bad about that?
I don't know what I don't know what I've
It
said. I don't know what I've said that would suggest you think I think there's something bad about that. I don't.
It's a net effect that I'm asking you about, as opposed to look at all of this stuff that's going wrong, and here's something which is going right, and it all adds up to what? That's what I'm asking.
Well, that will depend.
Are
on
we in better shape or worse shape?
Ask that again the day after the election. If the Democrats can hold a majority in the House and expand the majority in the Senate, we are in very good shape. If they lose the House, if they don't expand in the Senate, we're in very bad shape.
It's funny, this week, the European governments collectively, which mainly tend towards center, I think, if you blend it all out, introduced a rule that mobile phones have to use USB-C as a charging device by 2024. And to me, that's kind of symbolic of the big question on the table, which is, how does government and capitalism coexist for the benefit of human beings? And I think for the most part, the anti-government stuff is a masquerading form of pro-capitalism, usually. And the belief system is, you can rely on the market to do the right thing, which of course isn't true. And then the other side is kind of the market is terrible and only government can do the right thing, which is also not true. So it feels as if this USB-C thing is right in the middle of that, where it's clearly stupid for a government or governments to force technology companies to choose a particular type of charging cable for a phone. That's a really good example of where if people don't like it, they won't buy the phone. You can just leave it alone. And so I think it's a more complex discussion than good and evil, anti-government, pro-government. I think
I disagree, Keith.
Where did the move to require USB-C come from? Did it originate inside of government, or was it people outside of government lobbying to get the change?
I'm guessing it's Intel and Google lobbying against Apple.
Yeah, so I mean that's capitalism running amok.
Well, if
trying to capture governments.
If I was betting on it, I would say that it's likely that Apple will come out on top about this, simply because they will figure out a way of providing an elite version of their brand that does what they want it to do.
But I also think, actually, I wasn't trying to go down the rabbit hole of USB-C. I was more pointing to the simple arguments around government and capitalism are way too simplistic. Capitalism is the key driver of innovation by far, and I'm not particularly, I'm anti-capitalist. If you ask me about my politics, I'm not pro-capitalist at all, but I will acknowledge it's the best economic system the human race has so far invented, and it drives innovation. So I'm not anti-capitalist. I'm very pro-capitalist, actually, until a better system could be created by us. And I do think governments do good things, and I also think they do stupid things. So I don't think it's as easy as left and right, Democrat and Republican. I don't agree with that.
Dennis, you were
Frank,
trying
we
to
can't hear
say,
you.
what?
Yeah, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, you've suddenly become
Hey,
wonderful.
you're back.
And
What
it
did
sounds
you
good.
do?
I unplugged the headphones. So, something really interesting happened here in the UK last week, where a new mini budget was announced, and it quickly tanked the pound, and the exchequer, the chancellor of the exchequer, had to do a turnaround in this mini budget. The big part of the turnaround was they had decided that they were going to allow the rich to pay less tax, and that really pissed off a lot of people. And so, like a day later, they went, "Whoa, wait a minute, hold it, let's change that. Let's tax the rich. How about that?" And it was, it's just crazy. You talk about, the government's interference in our lives. There's an interference that you can't argue with. You could argue with the fact that these people are actually in there trying to run this government, right, Keith?
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying we got to be a bit more. I think the center of our concern should be human beings and life. And I think politicians on both sides should be held accountable for, standing in the way of good outcomes, and applauded for when they do good things to create good outcomes. And honestly, I can't. I would definitely tend towards Democrats on all kinds of issues, especially health, jobs, climate, probably. But I definitely am not with them on some other issues like USB-C charging cables.
No, I don't think that's a Democratic.
Yeah, I don't think the Democrats have anything to do with that one. So Keith, you
or
can check
regulating big tech in general, I'm not in favor of. So
But Keith, that's the government's function. You can trace that. You can trace that a long way back, even back to the Magna Carta, where weights and measures and other things were established as standard. In 1862, Abraham Lincoln established the gauge of railroad tracks across the United States. There had been competing gauges since the railroads began, and it made transferring goods very difficult. You had to unload one freight car and reload it onto another one. You couldn't just change tracks. So
but that's a good example.
Well, exactly, that's a good example. So the thing that I think you're missing is that we make mistakes out of hustle, and that's good. If we make mistakes out of inaction, maybe that's not so good. Maybe that should be the metric that we use, because you're not gonna be 100% in making decisions or causing things to happen.
Yeah, but I do think you've got to accept and embrace the fact that the key driver of growth and innovation is capitalism and self-interest. By the way, self-interest.
Well,
Yeah, but I don't know anybody who disagrees with that. There's no question that innovation is rooted in greed. People are looking for a way to succeed. I mean, that's not the issue. The question is, what happens if all of these innovative people pollute the waters? then what happens?
No, we're-
What happens if all these innovative people release ozone into the atmosphere and release carbon into the atmosphere?
Yeah.
You know, we were able to close the ozone hole.
What if they let the machines take over?
No, I mean, we were able to close the ozone hole because government recognized that there was a problem and issued regulations that changed things. We you know,
International regulations too.
No, but I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I'm good with electricity grids. I'm good with rules for driving. I'm all the things that benefit human civilization. I'm good with. The things I'm not good with is when government stands in the way of good outcomes. And I don't
Oh,
believe.
really?
Well, you know,
I think
but-
you're
but
trying to have
most
it
of the
both ways.
most of the times, I think if you trace it, when government stands in the way of good outcomes, it's because of the influence of the capitalist sector trying to jigger the rules so that one corporation or one segment of the economy will have an advantage. It's not
those
government
damn
per se
lobbyists.
doing things to get in the way. It's the fact that we have a very complex system, a complex series of interlocking systems, and they include government, which is not a monolith, which
Yeah.
involves different levels from local to national to international, and we have private sector, which is also not a monolith, which has all kinds of alliances and rivalries that are in some cases working together, in some cases opposing each other. So you know, to try and simplify anything to, well, it's capitalism good, government bad, or capitalism bad,
Which I'm
government
not doing,
good,
which I'm
is
not-
going to
I'm
miss
not-
the point. There's just too
No.
much complexity in the system.
I agree, but that's what I'm accusing you of doing. I'm claiming I'm not doing that. I'm saying it's way more nuanced than good and bad. Take the border. The border is a great example. America needs huge immigration to fill jobs. Neither Democrats nor Republicans are prepared to open the border. Why? Because it's politically not acceptable. But the border should be opened for economic reasons, and we should embrace immigrants for economic reasons, but we don't. Why? Government.
Well,
No,
I
no,
don't-
hold on.
why? Republicans,
Hold
the Democrats have been trying to establish immigration reform, and they've been blocked at every point.
Since about 2005.
Let's remember that we're not just dealing with government; we're dealing with divided government. So to cast a net over government and not recognize that we have two very different parties operating on different assumptions and almost in different universes is to miss the point. It's not.
But
government per se.
neither party is for open borders. Neither party.
And
Well,
they-
neither party was for climate change. And now we're kind of getting there. What happened?
I don't necessarily agree with getting there. I think there's been some movement.
There was
on
a fantastic article. Keith, what was the address?
t.me/Gillmor gang.
Thank you. That basically said that whatever the Infrastructure Inflation Act or whatever it's now called is not only is it a good thing, but it's even better than we thought.
No,
And it went on for a couple of pages about how actually, no, it's actually really, really good. And
Yeah.
there's going to be an incredible amount, open-ended budget. You know, when was the last time we heard that anywhere?
And
Well, I
it's going to stimulate private investment as well.
Uh-huh.
by
Yeah.
the way, I think
So when you say, when you reduce the argument to left and right or business and
government.
somehow something has happened, it appears, that circumvents that dead end.
Well, what's missing is the concept of progress and a definition of progress and a common understanding of what it means. That's what's missing. And progress is a way more important.
So you're answering my question about how did something good happen, is to say what we're missing is.
Yeah,
Are you really saying what we're discovering is.
No, what I'm saying is my house just burned down and you're telling me somebody fixed the front door. Well, great, but the house is burned down. In other words,
I don't understand what you just said.
this act, the problem of global warming is a global problem with every country in the world as a participant. And if we're really serious about fixing it and not just making speeches about fixing it, you can't do it in the United States. It's impossible. Yet the United States is at war economically with China right now, which makes no sense from a human point of view.
And
The point?
And so the solutions have to be bigger and governments have to get out of the way because a government actually isn't big enough to solve the problem of climate change.
Okay,
Do you
so
understand
the
how
oil
this? Do you
companies
understand how
are?
this climate
Come
change
on.
bill works? It's really important to recognize that there are different elements to the bill. Part of the problem we've had was dealing with climate, and let's get more specific, carbon emissions in terms of carrots and sticks. Trying to regulate your way out of it or trying to incentivize your way out of it. Well, the breakthrough in this bill is that they really dropped most of the sticks and made it all carrots. So the bill is a matter of investment. The bill is investment in companies to build things that are more carbon neutral or even carbon positive. So it's an investment in electric vehicles. It's an investment in more efficient homes. It's an investment to corporations and to individuals. And also there's an element of equity. Some of the investment is going to communities that could stand a little extra investment to bring them up. The part of the bill, the part of the climate prescription that didn't make it into this bill is the regulation and the sticks. So there's a huge amount of this bill that is going to accelerate movement away from fossil energy to renewable energy, and it's done through investment. So it's not in any way a question of government versus corporations. It's government investing in corporations, it's government investing in communities, and it's government investing in individuals to subsidize people changing their electrical systems in their homes, to put in solar, to put in more efficient stoves, to put in better insulation. It's a really sharp, smart bill, and it didn't originate inside the government. It's been years in the making, largely through the climate community that have been working on these proposals for more than a decade. This didn't just suddenly happen this year in Congress. What happened is that Congress looked around to see what was going on. If you go back to the 2020 campaign, for the first time, you saw in the Democratic debates people bringing up climate proposals. It became part of almost every candidate's story, and a lot of this, what was adopted, came out of Washington Governor Jay Inslee's proposals, which were also previously informed by the climate community. So this isn't something that just suddenly happened and we're in a new world. This is something that involved years and years of education and policy wrangling to give us an outcome that, as Steve said, is probably going to move things a great deal. Now, does it solve the global problem of climate change? No, but because you need to involve China doesn't mean that the United States shouldn't participate to the extent that it can.
And scene.
Got
Print.
Episode 2 will be next week.
Well, if they kill Twitter blue, then we'll have to cut it down to 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to not to get into that, but I do think there's a broader conversation about what we consider progress is and how politicians play in it, as well as how corporations play in it. And I don't think they're resolved issues. I mean, it's easy if we say it's all resolved, it's all clear, but I don't think it is.
Oh, I don't recall anybody saying that on this show.
No, good. Excellent. That's why.
All
that's
right,
how-
so Brent, what's going on with Maslow's bundles?
Hmm.
What?
Did you see my
I
column?
saw it.
Okay,
Oh.
what did you think? It's based on your friend
Eshap.
Evan Shapiro.
Eshap.
Yeah, it's based on his work, which is extraordinary. In the same way that Michael, I think, just gave, very precise formatted description of something. Evan Shapiro is giving a similar formatted, highly detailed, and somewhat
And funny. Let's not
yeah,
forget.
yeah, fair enough. He's got the hair, that's great. But what's really going on, he suggests, is a shout out or a callback to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I unfortunately was exposed to in trying to escape from English as a major into sociology as a gut major. And so I was actually exposed to the great man himself for a few minutes. And
Wow. Wait a minute, you actually met the dude?
yeah, he was at Brandeis, and so was I. For a minute, I was like trying to find where the radio station was, and he had no idea.
That was way too much work for me in college. I was just trying to find God.
When did they add Wi-Fi to that list, by the way?
Which list?
The Maslow's list.
You
The
mean-
hierarchy of needs. Wi-Fi is on there now, isn't it?
That's a joke, right?
Small.
Apparently
ones.
not a good one, but
Hey,
We by the way, we call it Wi-Fi.
but the thing about Maslow's needs is that this is all about, as Shapiro suggests, about churn. The element of churn is what is governing the disruption of streaming, and I would suggest newsletters and the Twitter buyout. They're all connected to a transformational moment where the media has locked itself into a dead end in terms of their so-called journalism methodology, and are subservient to a process of basically filling out 24/7 with a series of it reminds me of being in college, and everybody's got their hand up except the person who's talking, and nobody's listening to that guy because they want to interrupt to talk about what they want to talk about. So that feels like what media is today. Is that,
Well, though, Steve, there are to me, if you go looking and you want to see something different, you want to see what the media is creating that's new and exciting, it's out there. I mean, that's why when I mentioned to you that Brian Tyler Cohen, for example,
yeah, I still haven't seen that.
And he's one of those types of sort of next generation of journalists, I think, and there's a few of them out there. Some of them are attached to the Young Turks, who I think do some really great work, and there's a number of them out there. So I think that the media is looking for new ways to do things, and it's finding them. It's just now the issue is discovery. How does the viewer discover them? There's also another thing happening with numbers of sort of personal networks being created. I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. but I'm actually starting to see it more and more that people are putting together and getting all of their, friends who make content. Oh, I've got a friend that's made a show. Let's put it on my channel. And that now their channel has 10 shows, and those 10 shows are being, continually being produced. And it's new content for you to go out and experience. But how do you discover it? So I think that these are like growing pains. That's what I feel.
Okay, well, good. I mean, that relates to what Michael was saying. It's a different domain.
Yeah.
But the energy, I mean, I view everything through my granddaughter. Basically, that her eyes are how I look at any of this, and the climate change energy that's apparent for a brief shining moment, hopefully a lot longer, it warms my heart, and so does what you just said. The bundling together of multiple individual efforts into something that becomes a trend, and then gets success on the part of people who then start to observe the bundles that form around that and other things that are important to them, like sports. I'm pointing at Brent, and music, and the kinds of things that in an earlier time for us seem to be dominant and important, and in a moment of time that we're in now with the pandemic and the war and the nihilism of the political system, it's a battle for emotional traction.
Well, that's the Maslow's hierarchy. If you look, I just shared.
Yes, exactly.
But the Maslow's hierarchy, as I read it, is mostly about the ability of the individual to be whole. And it starts with physiological at the bottom and safety, which are physical capabilities. And then you very quickly get to belonging, love, esteem, cognitive abilities, aesthetics, self-actualization, and transcendence. And what all of those are about is the ability of the individual to be, unconcerned about threats and happy in themselves. And happiness is a function, of at the very top, self-actualization and transcendence, which if you look at a city like San Francisco, where people are not even physiologically safe, where they're living on the street, they definitely don't have belonging and love or esteem. And this is a democratic city, by the way, not a Republican city. I don't think we can pretend for a second.
This is a tech city. This is a capitalist tech city, not a Republican or Democratic city. This is a city that's been ruined by technology.
No, it's run by Democrats.
You've forever you've changed my perspective about the so-called liberalism of the technology community, as you go through torturous explanations for why regulation is not a good thing.
No, I'm saying if we really care about Maslow, you have to care about people. And if you care about people, you have to put them before politicians, no matter what bad.
I know, but you're going back to your theme, your what do they call it on TikTok?
Well, I'm reminding everybody that we don't live in a world where Maslow's hierarchy yet exists.
Well, no, it doesn't exist universally. Look, Maslow's hierarchy describes a hierarchy of needs of an individual. And the question is, how do we meet these needs? Who meets these needs? Who ensures that people live safely? Who ensures that their physiological needs for food and shelter and warmth are met?
Wrong question. It's
who gets that done?
Who. No, it's not who, Michael. It isn't like there's some humans that are above everyone else making sure we get these things. That's basically not in any way
All right,
democratic.
let me change who to how. How do we ensure that everybody has physiological needs met? How do we ensure that everybody has safety met? How's that
Right.
done?
Give them good
well-
TV.
Economic well-being, it starts there.
Yes, how is that achieved? How is it achieved? How
No,
do you,
no,
how
no,
do you,
no.
how do you,
Actually,
how do you
It
achieve
starts with society.
everybody having enough?
Hang on, let Dennis get a word in edgewise, please.
It starts with society. It has to start with society. Society drives economics. Society is the organization that ensures there are roads, that ensures that there are laws that enable you as an entrepreneur to gain from your investments and keep what you make. It's society that does several other things from which you then have the ability to, from which you can satisfy Maslow's hierarchy. Maslow's hierarchy exists. It's like Saturn. It's out there. Whether you access it or not is a different question.
I'm a bit surprised that you say that, Dennis, because I know you're a keen student of history. I mean, if you look at the feudal times when the agricultural revolution happened, you couldn't describe society as being in any way nice.
Anyway, what?
Nice. I mean, society was authoritarian, aristocratic, and
Brutal.
And yet
Solitary.
they invented the spinning jenny, the seed drill, blah blah, and all of that led to an exodus from the land, which led to cities, which led to eventually one man, one vote. The driver of society is innovation.
One man, one vote. Where is that?
Very late in history, actually, after the Industrial Revolution.
Has it happened yet?
No, actually, no.
Uh,
The underpinnings- the underpinnings-
I'm with Brent on no. One man, one vote.
There's
don't
still
think so.
filibuster.
There's a case of one step forward, two steps back, two steps forward, one step back. I mean, you can look at the history of voting rights in the United States and just chart it. It was white property owners, it was women, it was blacks, and then it was let's carve that back. Let's make it a little harder for people to vote.
But the driver of the whole thing, even the end of slavery, the emergence of industrialization, the northern interest in the ending of slavery to get paid employees to fill the factories and the land. The key driver of everything is technical innovation. Society is what comes out of it.
No.
That kind of rules out important speakers, people that take risks.
Good point.
Okay.
No, I think that's a good point. Yeah, there has to be vision leaders and executors who take the possibilities and then turn them into actualities. So technology doesn't make society; it makes it possible, but it doesn't make it. Human beings make it.
Right, but
Keith,
at every level, you're going to find bad actors who are going to try to take a little bit too much for themselves and don't mind exploiting other people to get some for themselves. So you can talk about the principle of innovation driving everything, but how much do you pay your workers? As little as you can get away with.
Well,
So there's a new. Now this is going to be my last thought, guys, because I actually have to book. But I want to recommend Confidence Man by Maggie Haberman. If you haven't started reading it, you absolutely should. What you think you know about what happened in the White House and how he got to it, where he ended up. This book adds layer and layer and layer on top of all of that stuff that we all think we already know.
Okay, I want to just stay where you are, Frank. We're going to wrap this in 2 minutes because we have a babysitting duty that trumps all of this. So last thought, Dennis, recommendations, anything?
No, I just said what I had to say. We could go on a long time with this, and we don't have time.
Book recommendations?
To Risk It All, James Stavridis, former Admiral, U.S. Navy.
Okay, Keith Cheer.
Optimus Prime, the new robot that Musk showed this week, couldn't even walk. They had to carry it on stage. It was so funny to watch.
Not very prime.
However, that's where innovation starts. And you can imagine if he turns that thing into something real, I wouldn't bet against him. That is going to change work as we know it. And that will be a key driver of new types of society that we could choose to make then. And I think that would be wonderful.
Michael Markman.
I've got a book. It's called Meme Wars, The Untold Story of the Online Battles Upending Democracy in America. It's an interesting exploration of the battle to exploit dissatisfaction through online memes and algorithms.
Brent Leary.
I just would like to say no mea culpas yet. We'll see what happens in the next week or so. And I totally agree with everyone. Yeah, I look good, and this light really does look good.
Yeah. You look
I'm gonna
fantastic.
keep it.
Oh my God! It's like looks like a 35 millimeter frame.
You do win the lighting wars this week. Absolutely.
Okay, Tina,
Prince is
you don't
ready
have
for
it.
close up.
We don't have time for a comment.
Right.
Okay, that's all she wrote here. Thanks to everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Adios, amigos.